It has changed in a number of ways. At the at a macro level, uh, what is this has impacted community colleges, but also the whole of education, higher education. What has happened is that there's been a political agenda, also a philosophical change that thinks or looks at education not as a public good, but as a private gain. And as a consequence of that, the public support for education has declined, higher education, community colleges, public school. And tuition has increased. It's a market-driven educational system that clearly has had an impact in community colleges and all the way down to the practitioner level. So that's one of the macro factors. The other is, I just mentioned, the lack or the reduction of decrease of financial support for community colleges. When I came to the Maricopa Community Colleges in the late 70s, 1978, 38 or 39% of the district budget was appropriations from the state. This year, this fiscal year, it is around 3%. And the governor's budget had very little increase for community colleges. And you see what has happened. You know, when I came, there was no tuition. Students had to pay fees, but no tuition. Now it's $69 per credit hour. Compared to the universities, that's not very high, but it is very high for the people who want to come to the community college. So that's the second force that has impacted community colleges and changed what's going on. The third is demography. The changes in the past decade have had terrific impact and will continue to have impact. I want to show this graph. This shows the enrollment in the schools in Arizona from the 1972 to 2012. The blue line is the increase in enrollment of all minorities, and the red line is enrollment of white non-Hispanic students. The majority of the growth of minority students in Arizona is Hispanic, and that trend will continue. So this has happened in Arizona, in my home state of Texas, in California. It happened already in New Mexico. It's impacted Florida. It's impacted Illinois, New York. So what used to be considered a regional minority now are spread out throughout the country. I was surprised to learn that Arkansas has a high percentage of Hispanic students in the public schools and increasingly at the universities. So that's the third. The fourth, obviously, is technology. You know, we were talking earlier about this proposal that a friend of mine sent me from Washington, the state of Washington. It's a proposal that he made to the Tacoma Public Schools, recommending to them that they change from desktops, computers, to completely mobile technology. I don't know what impact that has had yet in community colleges, but my sense is that it will continue to go up. So those are 5 forces that have changed and will continue to change community colleges. The first is that one would could think of the question are assuming that these two forces or concepts are new. The reality is that community colleges have always been the institution, whether the more representative of the communities that they serve. You remember that we discussed terms that have been used to describe community colleges, and one of those terms is Ellis Island of higher education. The other is Democracy's College, and on and on. So these have changed community colleges, but it's nothing new. It's nothing new for practitioners. In fact, a week ago today, I was at a meeting where the president of Phoenix College, Dr. Anna Soleil, was present. She's a member of the same group that was meeting. And in part of the discussion at that meeting was the diversity of students in community colleges. And she said something that I think I knew, but I had forgotten. She said that students at Phoenix College speak more than 50 different languages, and they come from more than 40 countries. Their ancestors, or they came from more than 50 countries. So that community colleges have always had that very diverse student population, and it has changed the way faculty have been taught at the universities to teach, and what they have to do when they work at a community college as faculty, counselors, librarians, etc. And most of them have adjusted the traditional way that they were taught to meet the needs of the students in very, very different ways. In fact, the community college movement is the only organization, the only part of higher education that I know that has the League for Innovation in the community college. Because as the technology changes, as the curriculum changes, as the student population changes, community colleges, and I want to use another term that you're familiar with, are nimble enough to be able to change. So community colleges will continue to move, to adjust, to change, to innovate in order to continue to serve the needs of a very, very diverse student population. Well, at this point, the most important one is how I began this interview. How can community colleges influence the policymakers, the politicians, think tanks, etc., to try to move the philosophical foundation that currently impacts education to where it was 25 years ago. That is, there's a lot of public good. People talk about the need for this country to be competitive in a global economy, in an economy that is driven by global market forces. And in order to do that, we need to have an educated, prepared, trained workforce. So the public good, in my view, exceeds the private value, because everyone contributes to the economic growth and development of the country. That's one. The other is they have to find ways to continue to build a financial structure that is secure, that is sustainable, and that is enough, strong enough, to serve the needs of the students. And the third is, again, technology. They have to stay in touch. They have to be in the cutting edge of technology if they're going to serve the needs of students who bring with them already deep knowledge and familiarity with the technology that there's something new every day, and community colleges need to do that. The third is the enrollment is changing, the patterns of enrollment are changing in different parts of the country, and one sees it in the newspaper or once a month, where such and such a school district is going to close 11 of the 30 elementary school districts. Eventually, that will hit community colleges, so that the enrollment patterns are changing, and community colleges need to adjust to that. They're adjusting already. The Maricopa Community Colleges have bond money to buy land in western Maricopa County, and they decided that at this date, if the enrollment patterns there do not justify the investment. So those are things that, or it's a two-edge. You can look at it two ways. One is that in terms of technology, for example, you have to change, but also that will feed the need for continuing change in community colleges. And as long as community colleges adjust quickly, nimbly, they will do fairly well. So it's both a challenge and an opportunity. I found them to be very interesting. They're focused, and I think they'll make a good contribution to the literature, and hopefully others will follow with a recommendation for further study that will add to the research base of the literature of community colleges.